So I think the phrase Bitcoin as an inflation hedge is overplayed, and it's like Bitcoin is the money of the future, and you better have some if you want to survive, right? Learning as much as I can, understanding the difference that Bitcoin to me represents the money that Jesus would use and God would use versus the money that the devil would use and is using and currently uses, right? To enslave everybody and to fund wars. It's the orange life raft that if you don't understand what's going on, you're going to work to your 90, 80. If you live that long, right, you're going to work to your 70, right? And everything that you work for, that energy is going to be depleted by inflation and stolen from you, and you won't even know it. And it's been happening for everybody, right? Because it's fiat currency at the end of the day. So, man, that's why our grandparents, I started to understand like why our grandparents only paid like 20 grand for a house, right? And then now it's $200,000 for a house, $400,000 for a house for the same house, right? So escape velocity, where it's just gonna, once it's there and it's gone, it's gone, bro. And as long as you structure your trust the right way, there's no taxes. And it's crazy because it's simple.
Wow.
And you asking some great questions, bro. But it's people just don't understand the power of a contract. What I like about Trump is that
you're streaming live. Welcome back to Real Hard Money. It's your boy Caliph Harold. I have on the line Bitcoin Chris, the Bitcoin rogue who's shredding the matrix lies with a vengeance. This dude is out here exposing the bankster scams, stacking sats, and preaching freedom with a holy middle finger to the system. His ex-feed, pure dynamite, dropping truth bombs to wake the debt slave dreamed suckers up out of their nightmares. Buckle up for a no BS blast to the financial sovereignty. Bitcoin Chris about to blow the roof off the building. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. That's an excellent introduction, man. I appreciate you, man. Wow.
Welcome to the podcast. Yes. I had to give you a good one. I've been seeing you for years. Like we were just talking before we got on. I've been seeing you for years, maybe even 2019. I was still out in Miami, and I think you were out in Florida, right? And you're in Orlando?
That's right.
That's right. And yeah, so I was like, always wanted to connect with you. And this is actually the first time we're actually connecting and seeing each other face to face. So that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Like I said, thanks for having me on. And like I said, it's crazy that you've been following me for years because I feel like there's only a certain amount of people that's actually been in this space for as long as we have. Because, people usually get rugged or they hop into the altcoins and then they get turned off to the space and they don't ever, see it through. And then they come back now and it's 100,000 and they buy the chop and get rugged and the cycle happens all over again.
I've made my stupid Bitcoin mistakes as well. I think everybody does, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So give the people a little introduction about yourself, your journey. We're all about the journey here, the Bitcoin journey, because it's a little different for everyone else. So let the people know, how'd you get to Bitcoin? What gave you your aha moment and where you're at now with it?
All right. So my journey started back in 2016, 2017, as I've always been like a defiant person and not really taking, I knew deep down inside something wasn't really right with the system and with the money. And growing up, when YouTube came out, I grew up, I'm a 80s baby, right? 80, 89.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up in the 90s and growing up when we first got the internet, YouTube wasn't as like censored as it is now, right? So we got to see a lot of, crazy things and, exposed to a lot of different ways of life and zeitgeist and, what happened with the Twin Towers and what really happened. We're exposed to a lot of these things, or at least I was at a very young age. So I was like, man, something's really not right. And so in 2016, 2017, I'm working at Hilton. I already didn't want to be working, right? Because I didn't like working at all. I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to be, I wanted to get out of the corporate trap, but I didn't really know how. So in 2016, I saw Bitcoin. It was like $800. 2017, it was like $800, $1,000. I was naive at that point, wasn't really financially literate, at that point in time. But I knew I wanted to get out of the rat race. So I saw a Bitcoin. It was $800. I called it a stock. I gamble with the shit coins, right? Everybody does. And Bitcoin went from $1,000 to $20,000 like that following year. So it's like I was like, yo, this is crazy. Made a lot of money, but I really didn't get an understanding for it until I started to listen to Max and Stacy, which I don't really know how I found Max and Stacy, but I know it was on Twitter, and I've been on Twitter since 2009. So I've been on Twitter for a long time, but I wasn't really, I did music and stuff back in the day too. I was influenced by the rappers and, all the nonsense that comes with that. Right. And all the all the stupid things that we do as juveniles, right? So, and influenced
Uh-huh.
by these rappers. So, all that had changed, like I said, in 2016, 2017. I had a good job, sales at Hilton. And so, I'm listening to Max and Stacy, and Max and Stacy is talking about Bitcoin. And they're saying, it's better than gold. They're breaking it down on the Kaiser report. And, this is like every Thursday or every, Wednesday, whenever the show was. So I'm listening, I'm watching them every single show. They're breaking down money. They're breaking down the economy. They're breaking down what's going on with China. They're breaking down,
Mm-hmm.
everything. Right. And so, it wasn't until Max and Stacy introduced me to Bitcoin and like how, the ethos of Bitcoin. It wasn't
Yeah.
until they broke it down in a way, how Max is too. Max is always bombastic or,
Wow. Yeah.
extravagant. Yeah, he gets that wow factor and he like shocks you. But that's what people needed, right? To like wake up
Mm-hmm.
to what's really going on. Financial terrorism, all that good stuff that I be talking about now. Max was on it a long time ago, right? So Max and Stacy got me to actually sit down and to study Bitcoin and understand 21 million. And you go down the rabbit hole. So that was really my aha moment when I realized that inflation and that the money printer is correlated and fiat currencies in general, that they die every about 100 years, every 150 years. So it's like, man, that's why our grandparents, I started to understand like why our grandparents only paid like 20 grand for a house, right? And then
Right.
now it's $200,000 for a house, $400,000 for a house for the same house, right? So it made me understand that it's not really the value of the house going up; it's the value of the dollar going down. And another way to check that is in the barometer is Bitcoin. So shout out to Max and Stacy. I love them. They definitely, I think they saved my life, right? I think Bitcoin saves your life. It's the
Mm-hmm.
orange life raft that if you don't understand what's going on, you're going to work to your 90, 80. If you live that long, right? You're going to work to your 70, right? And everything that you work for, that energy is going to be depleted by inflation and stolen from you, and you won't even know it. And it's happened. It's been happening for everybody, right? Because it's fiat currency at the end of the day. So that's pretty much my story. I got into it. And ever since then, I've obviously dabbled in the shitcoins and learned my lesson and got burned and got scammed and all that good stuff. So I'm glad that happened to me in the early stages. And again, it was been 2016, 2017. So, we're coming up on almost 10 years in Bitcoin. That shit feels like 20 years,
Yeah.
when you're in this
Yeah.
space. So much happens
Yeah.
and all the stress and the ups and downs. So,
It feels like
I've been
30
educating
years to
people on.
me, bro. With the ups and downs, especially when it's down, that's when it's that winter was the longest, hardest Bitcoin winter. Like if you went through that last winter and you held, you're a real one for sure. For sure.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
what what are you doing now in the Bitcoin community? How do you interact with Bitcoin? I see you posting about Bitcoin, but do you do anything else?
Well, currently no, because I orange pill and I talk my crap on Twitter, but I feel like at this point at this point in the game, like I said, we're coming up on almost 10 years of, being in the space. It's like, I feel like I said everything that I can say, right? And of course, there's always education that can be done, but 2021 through 2023, I was on Clubhouse every single day, giving away Bitcoin, educating on Bitcoin, talking to people about Bitcoin from all over the planet, thanks to Clubhouse. So, that actually I was super burnt out, after doing that for so long. So right now, I'm just, right now I'm doing more business oriented, type things. So that's pretty much what I'm doing now. Of course, I love to educate people on Bitcoin and, keep doing what I'm doing. But at the same time, I got to stack some more Bitcoin and I got to, get to the money and get to this business. So that's what I'm
I
really
see.
focused on right now.
I went through your post and you mentioned not funding the devil in your post, talking about fiat,
Woo!
and
That's a post right there, boy.
yeah, yeah. So I often say, like, when you really understand Bitcoin, it takes you to another place. It's like it's more spiritual. It's a higher level of thinking and being and feeling and resonating, and you changes your whole perspective around. So how do you balance the moral or spiritual aspect of financial freedom with the practical realities of living in a fiat dominated world?
So that's a loaded question,
It's a
man.
deep. It's deep.
The best thing I would recommend and like what I do is like, since I know that everything is really a lie that we've ever been
Hmm.
told, including
Hmm.
what the money is about and what, like how our entire monetary system is. And like you said, like when you understand that you're literally, you are literally a slave to the devil when you're operating in his fiat currency, then all you can do is leverage that currency that we're using and transfer that energy into something that can never be debased, never be stolen, uncensorable. You know, it's Bitcoin, right? And that's what it's all about. So I think the only way to balance that is to what Jeff Booth says is to hop over and just utilize the next system, right? Because we can't destroy the system. It's going to destroy itself. It's gonna die one day, right? Who knows when? Right? They're gonna print up money for the next ever, right? So instead of trying to fight this big ass beast that we really can't even destroy, we just got to opt out and utilize and use a different system. So I think the way I've been able to get over it is really just praying, learning as much as I can, understanding the difference that Bitcoin to me represents the money that Jesus would use and God would use versus the money that the devil would use and is using and currently uses, right? To enslave everybody and to fund wars and to do with the government, doing surgeries on animals, transgender surgeries on animals, sending transgender books to Peru, spending money with, on stupid ass shit, right? That we all were exposed to thanks to Elon, even though I don't really rock with Elon like that, or I don't really rock with Trump, but I rock with Trump. You feel me? But only on certain things, obviously, right? I'm not going to agree with everybody on every single thing, right? But I
Right.
think a lot of us are, we're taught one way and we're indoctrinated into one way, and that blocks us from seeing the bigger picture. So, like I said, for me, it's about praying, reading, learning, studying, and questioning everything that we've been told. Because if you don't, you're a part of the system. You're an NPC, and you think that you're opting out, or you think you're doing one thing, but you're not. They're playing 3D chess with you, and you don't even know it.
I like that, man. That was a good take. Put money into energy into money that Jesus would use and not what the devil would use. And I think it's very clear that Jesus would prefer Bitcoin over fiat. That's a great take. That's fire right there. Tell me, what do you like about Trump?
Love how everybody used to be like, yo, we rich like Donald Trump, all the rappers, Nelly, Lil Wayne, like I said, I rap still to this day, right? I make music because I love music. I don't make music to make money, but I understand that's a key and a gateway to, and I love to do music. So I remember back in the day, Nelly saying something at the Trump Towers in over 3 hours. You feel me? So Donald Trump, getting rich like Donald Trump, like Lil Wayne, all the rappers used to fuck with Donald Trump, dog.
Yeah,
So all of
Raekwon.
a sudden,
Guess who's the black Trump? Yeah, Raekwon. You know what I
exactly,
mean?
dog. So
Everybody.
he was cool. Everybody rocked with him. We was borrowing money from. They was borrowing money from him.
He was
All
cool.
that
I'm
stuff,
from
right?
New Jersey, man. I know Atlantic City, like Trump was big. New Jersey, New York, like
What
Trump
I'm
was that
saying,
dude. He
dog.
was cool, but then he got into the
The media. That's what
politics.
I'm saying. People don't even think for themselves. All of us, like, that's what I'm saying, bro. It's like the media as well. Like I hate going on Twitter, dog, and seeing people say, "Oh, Robert Tudor Jones said this," which is cool. No shots at Robert Tudor Jones, but I don't care what anybody says, especially if you're listening to the mainstream media that's been talking crazy about Bitcoin for the last ever. And now their tune is switched, right? They changed the
Mhm.
tune up, right? So what I like about Trump is that Trump is Trump is Trump, right? You got to understand that Trump is Trump. You're not gonna change him, and your emotions towards him ain't really benefiting you, dog. So why would I waste energy and time hating on a man that you should learn from, right? Because everybody talks about, oh, he's gone bankrupt X amount of times and he's failed at businesses. Everybody fails. Everybody fails at something, right? He's had bankruptcies, all these bankruptcies, but he's still a billionaire. Why aren't you learning and taking these strategies and understanding trust and understanding the UCC and understanding, real estate and how to not pay taxes, right? Instead of you learning from him, you're hating on him. And so for me, I just like that he keeps it business oriented. He's gonna tell you the truth, right?
Right.
He's from New York, so he don't need to lie to you, bro. Like New Yorkers don't play that. You feel me? My mom's from Brooklyn.
Well, I don't know. I
People
don't
up
know
north
about
don't play
that.
that, bro. Yeah,
I
they
don't
tell you
know
the
about
truth.
that. Trump lies like a fountain. He's like a
Well, he's
fire
gonna
hose
lie
of lies.
politically, but he's gonna tell you without telling you, but telling you at the same time. You got to read between the lines. He can't flat out and say this. They're politicians. Obama lied, Bush lied, Bill Clinton lied. They all fucking lied. So what's the difference?
Yeah, I was the biggest Obama fan until I kind of did my own research on that whole his whole reign, his whole tenure in the presidency. So yeah, I like first Trump was cool because he was cool with all the celebrities. Mike Tyson, anybody, Tiger Woods, anybody that was hot and popping, Michael Jackson. He had Eddie Murphy. The 80s was crazy for Trump, right? He was out there. He was chilling with everybody. And if you was popping, you were cool with Trump. It didn't matter if you were black, white, green, yellow, blue, whatever. And I know Trump is not a racist like that. Like people try to put him into
Ain't him
a
out.
box like that. I think everybody has their own thing. And, if he's racist, he might be that old classic diet type of racist. But, that's everywhere. Trump's not extraordinary in that degree. So I think Trump, he lived his life as a Democrat. He flipped over to Republican because he saw a lane to take. Right. So, and he took it. So I learned to not be outraged in it because honestly, when he won that first time, I was depressed, dog. And I was like,
I ain't gonna lie to you either, bro. I used to
why
watch
my
the
emotions
MSN. Yeah,
so letting some another man person thing outside of myself mess with my
dictator
emotions and
control.
my life and how I move and swerve in this world? It was very odd. It's very odd. And then once you see that in yourself, you can see it in other people. Like, wow, you're letting these politicians disrupt your life. It doesn't matter who's the president. You got to go out there and get you and do you. They're not going to pay your light bill, your rent, and all of that stuff. The end of the day, I don't remember receiving a payment for my mortgage from Obama. You know what I mean? They might have dumped some helicopter money out, but they're not going to sustain you. All right, so let's move on from that. I've seen you praise Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation and currency debasement, with like all the M2 global money debt levels rising. What do you see Bitcoin? What role do you see Bitcoin playing if we face a major economic crisis in the next decade?
So I think the phrase Bitcoin as an inflation hedge is overplayed, and it's like I don't like that term no more. You feel me? Bitcoin is the money of the future, and you better have some if you want to survive, right? In one of the lives I did, where I actually talked about, that Jesus would use, Bitcoin versus fiat or shit coins, right? In that video, I went over I went over a lot of different things, but it just slipped my mind what I was going to say. Damn. But for the most part, like I said, I don't really think of Bitcoin as the inflation hedge. I think Bitcoin is going to be the money and I think we all agree with that, right? But Bitcoin is the money of the future. So get as much of it as you can now. But as far
Mhm.
as an inflation, it is an inflation hedge by default because it shows you what's wrong with the US dollar. And even though it does fluctuate and it does, go up and down, that's life is volatile, right? So for me, I just see Bitcoin continuing to go up forever. It's mathematically programmed. People are losing their keys left and right. People getting their keys stolen left and right. people don't understand the value of Bitcoin they don't understand the Bitcoin that they currently have and the power and how much is going to be worth in the future. So because of that and the hubris and like 98% of the planet doesn't even care about Bitcoin. I think that when that crash does happen, we may see a correction, which is a blessing, a discount on it, and then that'll be your opportunity to scoop it up before it goes off into the escape hatch, right? The escape valve, the escape velocity, where it's just gonna once it's there and it's
Right.
gone, bro. And I feel like
Right.
once the economy or the world crashes, they're going to have lots of different opportunities, lots of different shit coins that they're going to get into. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's still going to be
Mm-hmm.
up in the air, but the wise and the smart people will continue to use Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin will then eventually be like the currency of the world, in my opinion. Because again, I feel like people's hubris and there's people still to this day that just saying that Bitcoin's old or calling like Bitcoin it's old and it's not gonna work or it's too clunky. That's like saying fire is old. That's like saying the internet is old. That's like saying, the wheel is old. It's like, y'all don't know what the fuck you talking about, but okay.
Right.
You keep doing what you're doing. We'll see you in 10, 20 years and you let me know how you're doing worked out. I'll let you know how me holding Bitcoin worked out.
Right. It's an elemental thing, I believe. I think it's like some kind of synthetic elemental thing, like space, time, gold. It's like it's salient. It's like an elemental thing. You can't break it down. Let me ask you this. You advocate for church trust and private contracts alongside Bitcoin.
Ah,
How do these strategies complement each other in building a financial life outside of the traditional system?
man, you asking some great questions, bro. I tell you what, I be tweeting that and I don't think people be listening, but thanks to you, you're giving me faith, dog. You're giving me hope and faith, dog, because I drop information to help people. And I hope that they don't take anything I say at face value. They will look it up. But the importance I learned about trust, I learned about, you know, the importance of and the power of a private contract, right? I learned about the importance of a church trust, a 508c1A, which is different than a 508c3, right? So, when you start to understand and read what the power is of a contract, I'm on Twitter a lot, right? And I cut back on Twitter as well because the algorithm is just so crazy. But I see a lot of Bitcoiners concerned about taxes. That's the main thing that they complain about, right? A lot of people are concerned about taxes because they're scared. They don't want to go to jail. They don't want to pay this, that, and the third, right? So I learned a strategy where all you have to do is convey your asset into a church trust, right? You create a church trust. You serve God. You got to do what you got to do. It's easier said than done, right? Once you establish this church trust, right? You give your assets to God. You give everything to God. God will then take care of you. You allow your church to take care of you as the trustee and a church member and any and everybody else. And that way, when you structure it and you put it when you give it to God, the freedom of religion, no government official, no IRS, nobody can come after those assets, right? So when you as an individual own these things as a taxpayer, as a U.S. citizen, you're liable. But when you transfer or convey those into the trust, aka to God, there's no taxes. You can even put your own game. So you're not in the U.S., but for anybody here in the U.S., right? You guys can create a church trust. One of the strategies that I mentioned on the Misty platform on Twitter, the Misty chat, right? So you get yourself some business credit if you want to, or if you have capital already, you buy Misty under the church, right? You have the church getting those dividends, right? And then the church has the power to take care of you as a church member or as the trustee, right? Or anybody else. So you're making dividend income from Misty. You use that income to take care of you or the church members, and then you use that money to buy Bitcoin, and there's no taxes on it because it's under the church, right? And as long as you structure your trust the right way, there's no taxes, bro. And it's crazy because it's simple,
Wow.
but it's people just don't understand the power of a contract, dog. And that's why I've been harping in on put your stuff in the trust, right? Because they can come try to take your shit if they want to, but if
Yeah.
you convey it to God, convey it to the trust, They have no authority, right? They have authority over you because you're a U.S. citizen using your all caps name, which is different from you being the living person. It's a lot to break down and digest, but this
Wow.
is why Elon has trust. All these wealthy people have trust. The banks,
Trust.
they take your applications. They have trust. They have trust accounts. It's a reason why they have trust, guys.
Yes. And that's really interesting. I have to talk to you offline about that because, you know, I've been trying to get my family into this for a long time, and we're coming together as, you know, because people always, you live through this life and you're hustling by yourself, right? But like if we came together, like just your family members, you know, there's 7 of us. And I saw a post of research about DCAing, right? And we're thinking about, you know, buying real estate and things like this and like, you know, for the family so we can have something for the future and grow it for the next generation, right? And you know, and have a trust, right? And something like that. And you could do real estate and stuff and any type of business venture to get income to fund that trust and like build it. And we have a couple of realtors in the family that are very, you know, real estate centric. But I was like, you know, we're Bitcoin guys. So I'm thinking, you guys don't know how Bitcoin performs over the years, but like you just see the up and downs and the crashes. You're not zooming out. There's research that shows, you know, 5 years of DCAing. If you DCA'd 5 years from 2020 to now, May 2020 to May 2025, you would have, if you DCA'd $300 a month, you would have 1 Bitcoin, $10 a day. You hear me? Can I get an amen? You'd have 1 Bitcoin if you DCA $10 a day into Bitcoin for 5 years. You have 1 Bitcoin. And they don't understand how 1 Bitcoin is life-changing. Just, you know, not even in 10 years now, because I believe $5 of Bitcoin is FU money. Because you just said F you to the system, I don't need you. You know, so even if you have $5 of Bitcoin, you got FU money. So transitioning back to, should we get real estate or should we buy Bitcoin? Well, it's 7 of us. If we did that $10 a day, each person, we'd have 7 Bitcoin right now. We have almost $800,000 right now, not doing anything but stacking. We'd have almost $1 million not doing anything but stacking, not worrying about rent, taxes, flipping the houses, reconstruction, you know, anything, repairs, nothing, just stacking. So I believe that the next 5 years, it's going to be similar. We won't have 7 Bitcoin, but it's still that stacking at that rate will create almost $1 million in 5 years if we all came together. So like to put it in a trust like that, like you're doing, to protect it, because, you know, the government wants their taxes, right? So to protect it like that, we really have to talk, man.
Yeah.
But let's get back to you. I had a question about, I remember what I lost my track of thought on before, is that I like the way you said Bitcoin's not a hedge. Bitcoin is the solution, right? People don't get that. Bitcoin is a hedge. It's kind of like weak. It's like gold. No, it's way beyond gold. It's bigger than gold. It's not, it's bigger than you think it is. You know, the Bitcoin bubble's going to pop. No, Bitcoin is the pin here to pop the everything bubble. So I like what you were saying about that. And, I think you're really spot on with a lot of things you're saying, man, for real. So here's a question for you. Like, many new Bitcoiners struggle with the volatility, like we were just saying, with that long, hard crypto winter, Bitcoin winter, and the complexity of self-custody. You know, people struggle with that, like, you know, when they're new to Bitcoin. What practical advice would you give someone just starting their Bitcoin journey to overcome these hurdles?
I mean, to be honest with you,
let's take a minute for our sponsors, Satosis, your gateway to revolutionizing the Bitcoin experience. Discover innovative solutions tailored for a seamless journey in the world of Bitcoin, like products featuring Spondylix, Unlock the potential of Spondylix, an advanced automated peer-to-peer trading station that harnesses the power of Bitcoin Lightning Network for instant low-fee transactions. Spondylix not only facilitates fast and private Bitcoin trading, but also serves as a convenient access point for users to buy and sell Bitcoin in various locations. With user-friendly operations and minimal regulatory overhead, Spondylix significantly enhances the accessibility of Bitcoin, supporting businesses, charities, and individuals eager to embrace the world of Bitcoin. Piggy Tips. Transform how you receive tips and donate with Piggy, the smart Bitcoin-powered device that generates dynamic QR codes for effortless microtransactions. Designed for businesses and individuals, Piggy enables you to accept secure and borderless contributions while promoting Bitcoin adoption every step of the way. Are you ready to elevate your Bitcoin journey? Visit satosis.tech, SATOSYS.tech today to explore these innovative products. Engage with our community, and for inquiries, feel free to reach out and discover how Satosis can transform your interaction with Bitcoin today. Bitcoin. What practical advice would you give someone just starting their Bitcoin journey to overcome these hurdles?
I mean, to be honest with you, every time I send Bitcoin from my, from my ledger, or, if I'm trading wallets or changing or, sending it somewhere, I still get I still get a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. It's still a little nervous unless you do the QR code. Then it's a little bit less nervous. But when you copy and paste in the address, I get a little bit like, yeah, I better not mess this up, because if I do, that's why you always do a test. My first thing to say is, hey, always do a test, test transaction first, right? Make sure you test your transaction first,
Yes,
and then
sir.
send your whole bag if you got a nice little bag. But that shit is not that difficult, bro. It is not that hard. I feel like people be overcomplicating it and being like mad, like slow about shit. Like, bro, you guys, we memorize like our social security numbers. We used to memorize phone numbers. Like we know your password to your Gmail, right? There's ways for you to be able to secure your Bitcoin. It's not that deep. It's serious and it's very important, but it's not that deep. Write down your password 3 different times on a piece of paper, laminate it, make sure it's flame resistant, whatever that you need to do. Put it in 3 different places, right? Your mom, your grandma's, and your brother's house, or somebody. They don't know what the hell these 12 words, 24 words are, right? Just hide it somewhere where you can go to and find it if, God forbid, you lose your key phrase, right? There's also multi-sig as an option where you can hire Casa, and they'll keep like one of the passwords, and they'll, there's different things that you can utilize now. It's much easier than it was back when we first started. So I feel like people be overthinking it. It's not that deep. It's serious, but it's not that deep. Anybody should be, and everybody should be able to custody their own keys. If you're not responsible and sovereign enough to do so, you're not ready to be, a Bitcoiner, because if you still leaving that shit on exchanges, that exchange goes down, you lost your money. You lost your Bitcoin, which is more valuable than the money, right? Because that's your sovereignty. And a lot of Bitcoiners are, they claim to be, they want to use sovereign money, but they don't want to move sovereign, right? I have a private plate on my car because I know the law, and I know that it's my right to travel, and that it's a privilege to drive. And to drive means you're in commerce, which means you're making money. Truck driver, Uber driver, which gives the cops permission to pull your ass over because you're operating in commerce, versus you traveling, which is a private, that's private, right? There's a public and a private. So like when you start to understand these things, it's like, yo, you want to be sovereign. You can't half-ass sovereignty, right? Like you said, you got to put your Bitcoin into trust, because if not, you sell, or you need to do something, or something happens to it and you pass away, and you got to have probate. Now the probate court's all up in your fucking business, and they trying to dictate where shit go. You feel me? They're taking their sweet ass time. Bro, it's a lot of trouble and a lot of headache that comes with not being on your P's and Q's, or at least not reading and understanding what's happening or what's going on. So for me, again, you being sovereign is key. If you're new to the space, as long as you have, under $1,000 on an exchange, cool. But after you 1,001, get that thing, start over, move it off the exchange, go into I don't recommend a hot wallet, but if you need to put it on a hot wallet, it's better than let's give you the hierarchy. You're going to buy it on Swan. You're going to buy it on Coinbase. You're going to buy it on Cash App. I don't even recommend Coinbase. PayPal, if you're going to buy anywhere, buy PayPal. There's Swan, there's River, there's Cash App. That's your first layer. Once you get to 500 or 1,000, take it off of there and send it right to a hot wallet. That's your next layer, right? Hot wallet, boom. Now you got it on your hot wallet. You still need your 12 to 24 words, excuse me. Then you start to, you keep it there at a certain point. And then once you understand and you're safe and you're able to transfer correctly, doing your test to your ledger. Now you get a ledger or a Trezor or whatever the new key, that ugly ass key that what's his name made.
Jade wallet.
Yeah, there's Jade wallet. There's another one that
Cold
Jack Dorsey
card.
made. That thing is ugly, bro. Cold card. I don't like
BitKey.
BitKey ugly as hell, but they all function the same, right? It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
The hardware doesn't matter. What matters is your 12 to 24 words, which a lot of people just don't seem to understand, right? They think it's the actual hardware that holds your keys or your money or your Bitcoin. It's not. It's your 12 to 24 words on the cloud, on the chain, right? So once you start to realize what's really going on, again, it makes it not as, you don't get too nervous, right? You don't get too anxious. You're not too worried about it, right? Because you understand, okay, hey, my ledger, my Trezor, my Jade, right? I have these things I can transfer to there, but it's okay if I lose this, because as long as I have my 12 to 24 words anywhere on planet Earth, even in heaven, or if your ass is going to hell, you got your Bitcoin keys with you. So that's all that really matters. I hope that broke it down a little bit. I know I went on a little too.
That was you're giving great, excellent breakdowns, responses. I love it, man. So that, there's many options for you guys out there to discover, from super technical to high ease of use. Bitcoin, if Jade wallet or Cold Card was on one end of the spectrum, maybe a BitKey and Zengo, something like that, is on another end of the spectrum. There's options out here for you guys to explore. But the second part of that question, Chris, was the volatility of Bitcoin. How does the average plebe or newcomer handle that? It's tough.
I would say that's maybe God testing you, or life testing you, or your conviction testing you, or your understanding testing you, right? Or whatever you believe in, right? So people don't believe in God, so people don't believe in Jesus. Cool. That's cool. Whatever you believe in, right? It's testing you, right? Because you say you believe in Bitcoin, your actions speak louder than words, right? So the volatility is I love what Oliver says. It's the benevolence of Bitcoin, right? It's giving you that second chance, that third. It's like God, bro. God, you know how many times we sin, and he forgives us. Our Heavenly Father forgives us, bro. Just like our parents forgive us from when we do bad. Or if you have kids and your kids do something bad, you forgive them, right? You give them a chance. You got to keep giving them chances, right? So you forgive them, right? So it's like God giving you the opportunity to save your bloodline via Bitcoin. So the volatility, if you can't handle the downs, you don't deserve the ups, right? You don't deserve the ups. And you're crazy to think that you're not going to experience Bitcoin messing with your brain, because it's going to mess with you. It's going to be in that bear market for like a year, right? And you're going to be thinking to yourself, yo, why did I buy this? Or I'm down. And you're thinking about the money aspect of it, instead of worried about how much Satoshis or how much Bitcoin you actually accumulated. Because the unit of account that we're using is flawed already. So you're already working backwards, right? So you're looking at it the wrong way off a rip. So the volatility is God blessing you with the opportunity to the downside to buy more. And the volatility to the upside is your blessing for holding and having faith and doing your research and having the conviction to understand what you're holding. And so you're blessed by the volatility to the upside. You feel me? So it's a cycle of that throughout your entire Bitcoin journey. And everybody has to go through that. It reveals who you are. It shows you your emotional, downfalls, I guess you could say, right? It teaches you not to be too emotionally attached to it, because if you do, you're going to sell, or you're going to buy, or you're going to panic, or you're going to FOMO buy the top, and then you're going to panic sell the bottom, right? And then you're like, I should have just bought and hold, like you said, DCA. But you only get that with conviction and studying. So the volatility is a blessing. I would say to the newbies, you didn't want to buy it at 75K last month. Now we at 110. You feel me? So you can only continue to see the patterns so many times, right? We can only lead the horse to the water. We can't make you drink. It was 3,000. I just posted this the other day too. I said every 50,000, I'm gonna post this picture on Facebook in 2020. I told people to buy at 3K. I think it was like 10K. I posted. I was like, now it's at 10 grand. We're up like 2x. I posted that same picture on Twitter, and it was like, yo, it went from we're at 100K, and you really haven't stopped to think about buying any of it. And if you don't see the volatility as an opportunity, then, have fun staying poor while we have fun staying wealthy. So,
The volatility is vitality.
Amen.
Right. And that's a great place to transition. I like this. Let's stay on the spiritual part of it. People call Bitcoin a cult, but I think it just brings you to a higher vibration, higher level, honestly. But if Bitcoin was a religion, Chris, what would its core commandments be? And how would you as the high priest, you the high priest now, not Max, how would you as the high priest spread its gospel?
Yo, it's so funny that you say this, bro. I literally started a church. I started a church just for this exact thing. My church, and I'm not like, obviously, I'm not perfect, bro. I cuss, I'm not perfect, bro. And anybody that owns a church or starts a church, it's not perfect. And I'm not trying to have a big mega church or anything. I'm not doing it for any of those reasons, except for one, asset protection, giving everything to God, because I understand that we're supposed to do that in the first place, right? Two, the spiritual aspect of it is to educate, anybody that wants to hear, right? Because we're all brothers and sisters in Christ anyway, right? We're just divided by color and, race and all this stupid stuff that we've been indoctrinated to believe. Because, when you get to heaven's gates, I would love to hear some of these people on Twitter be talking crazy. Like, bro, wait till you get to heaven, bro.
Crazy.
Let me see you say that stupid ass shit to God. Anyways, I digress. As the high priest, I created a church trust that I'm going to be utilizing as a real church just to help people understand finances, because a lot of our people perish for a lack of knowledge. And when you don't know that you can leverage the credit, you can leverage and do different things, right? Different strategies and how to invest. And they didn't teach us this in school on purpose. They want everybody to be sheep, right? And to work for the corporations, right? Until the AI comes, and then now ain't nobody gonna have no jobs, right? So as the high priest, I would just teach everybody the basics, the fundamentals of Bitcoin, explain why Jesus would use Bitcoin versus, fiat, like we discussed earlier. And as the high priest, at this point,
The
I was
commandments.
giving away Bitcoin back in 2021, 2022, 2023 for free on, Clubhouse. I would, recommend that they use the fold card. Just recommend different things that they can earn Bitcoin on things that they're already spending, utilizing the fold card and the, things like that, right? So education is key. So as the priest, I would educate people, or, delegate people to educate people, because I really have been there, done that, and I don't mind doing it. But I feel like at this point, it's more, I need to move more strategically as the boss versus the worker. And there's nothing wrong with, I've done my fair share of helping, and I don't mind doing and helping. But I think it would be more beneficial to spread those branches out. But just education, financial education, and explaining why fiat currency is the devil's money versus Bitcoin being God's money. And from that point, it should open your eyes, because I would explain it and have, that information plain as day for you, as we all know.
Beautiful. But what would be your commandments? Like, what's your top 3 commandments? Thou shalt not.
Thou shalt not sell your Bitcoin. That's number 1.
Lightning.
Second commandment would be, love, we're all one, we're all brothers and sisters in Christ, and, we're all one color. That color is orange when you in the Bitcoin family. You feel me? We're all one color. Love, love and do what you would want to do to others. The same common law practices, just infused with, the financial part. We're missing that financial key, that part, man. I feel like everybody that wants to be a decent human being and follows the
Yeah.
basics, of being a good human being is following God. But I just feel like a lot of us are missing, not, people in general are missing that financial key. That would be it. I don't
All
know what
right.
my other commands would be. Just do what you want to do to others. Be nice, be kind, love on each other, and
All
don't
right.
sell your Bitcoin and orange pill as many people as you can. That would be the three commandments.
Okay. So let's talk about a little bit of current events. Like right now, the Vegas convention, one of the biggest conventions in Bitcoin history, 30,000 people there. We're seeing a little price surge, price action happening on Bitcoin. What do you think about what season do you think we're in as far as Bitcoin's run, and how is it different? You were here in 2020, right? You went through that. Uh, were you there in 2017 though?
Yeah, yeah, I was.
Yes. So that run up was crazy. It was from like 1,000, 2,000, all the way up to 20K. That was
20,000.
my real introduction into the world. Like I knew about Bitcoin before that, but that was my real introduction. How do you see now with, and then that was a whole different vibe, right? That 2017 was like ICOs, right? And then the next cycle, it was like NFTs, right? And then the FTX and, Bankman Fried, and everything blowing up with the leverage, the debt leverage, and all of that. So, what do you see this cycle is? Some people say Michael Saylor and MST. That's the new. That might be the thing that blows people up with too much being over levered and things like that. Or what's the narrative in this ETFs? Everything coming in now.
You're asking what I think is going to be like. Yeah, the ETFs would be the narrative of this year, and that's another ploy to get you to not buy Bitcoin directly and for you to hold another financial legacy type vehicle, which holds the asset for you, which therefore you're still a slave because you're still pricing it in BTC, USD versus BTC, and then you don't custody your own coins and you don't control it. So no keys, no cheese, right? So I feel like anybody that's saying Michael Saylor is going to blow up doesn't know anything about money because he has unlimited money. He has an unlimited money printer, right? He can buy as much money, he can buy as much Bitcoin as he wants, no matter how low the price goes to cover his margin, right? His margin call. So y'all don't understand, and most people don't understand that. So for them to even say that, I don't listen to them. He wants to buy Bitcoin forever. He's going to buy Bitcoin forever, and that's the mind that a lot of people seem to not like. It doesn't register to these, and for those people that say that, I don't even listen, or I don't listen to them, and I don't take anything that they have to say as far as Bitcoin goes with with anything, right? I don't listen to I don't value their opinion if that's their opinion, because I understand that he has more than enough money, more than enough capital, able to raise capital, and he understands the ethos of Bitcoin. So he's smart enough to know. He did what I did what Michael Saylor did, like on the normal level, right? As a normal average person could do, because the average person doesn't have a Fortune 500 company, right? But what I did was I leveraged business credit to buy Bitcoin in 2020, and then Bitcoin went from 3 grand to 69, or what's it? No, did we go? Did we go to 3 grand to
2020,
69
we
grand?
went down. No, we went down to like 15. When 2020 hit, we went down to 3 grand. Yes, we
Yeah,
dipped all the way down because COVID hit, and we went from like 9 to 3 or something like that.
and then we went to 69,000. So he's doing it on a corporate level where he has, you know, he's able to do what he has to do and what he's able to do through his, he's able to raise funds, he's able to sell stock to buy Bitcoin, he's able to do and utilize that type of mechanism. For the average person, it's utilizing business credit to buy Bitcoin at 0% interest. You're borrowing money for free. You're buying an asset that goes up, let's just say 100% per year. You're making money with the bank's money. It's really simple when you understand it. But I think this year's narrative is the ETF, and I think the ETF, or I don't know what's gonna make it crash this year, or what the main like I don't know what the main
Motive.
like narrative would be to
Or
crash Bitcoin for the next cycle. Besides maybe a bank going bust, or maybe Coinbase. Maybe it's Coinbase, dog. I think Coinbase is like low key, like the an evil like an evil plot, like to just take all the Bitcoins out, bro, and like or just
sus,
stop
right?
everybody from
Suspect.
obtaining their Bitcoin, right? They're gonna take all the Bitcoin off. You have it
Yeah.
on their exchange. it's their keys, right? It's their money. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think, just like you said, you have to operate at a personal level. The promise of Bitcoin was always the decentralization of the network, not of the actual money or coin itself. So people can gather it, as they will. Nothing stopping Bitcoin Chris from stacking as much as he possibly can. That's your sovereign right, right? And nothing stopping from Michael Saylor from stacking as much as he possibly can. Now, whether you as a true Bitcoin believer decides to buy into MSTR and all of that, which is just a wrapper for Bitcoin, and you lose all of your sovereignty and the real power of holding Bitcoin, that's your choice in that. Nothing's stopping you from buying Bitcoin and just doing like that, covering your eyes. I don't see anything else, right? So, if you don't have Bitcoin first, big old bag, or whatever you have, if you have $1 of it, 90 cents should be in Bitcoin, and then 10%, 10 cents, you should do whatever you want to do. That's how I feel about it. Chris, let me get your opinion on this. With everybody hoarding, which is a good transition, the corporations hoarding, and now they're saying Nakamoto and then 21 Capital is coming, right? With the competition for Saylor, similar, Metaplanet. It's going to be a flywheel as people are gobbling up all the Bitcoin. Are nation states hoarding Bitcoin a win for decentralization, or the matrix co-opting it for control?
That's an easy one, man. That's easy, man. It doesn't matter how much any one person has of Bitcoin. They cannot control the network. Bitcoin is decentralized by default. It doesn't matter how much Bitcoin Michael Saylor has. It doesn't matter how much Bitcoin El Salvador has, right? It's a decentralized protocol, and it's a network. When you understand that these little narratives that you hear online, oh, he's buying up all the Bitcoins. He's gonna what? What? He can't do nothing, bro. It's decentralized. It don't matter, bro. It's not fiat currency, and a lot of people tend to think they correlate it with the fiat currency because once you have all the fiat currency, you control the spigot, right? You can the quintillionaires, right? It's not the same thing. It's a protocol. It's decentralized. There's miners. There's the nodes, right? So you have to understand that it doesn't matter who and how much anyone has of the Bitcoin. It doesn't matter. They can't stop you from transacting. You have just as much power as Michael Saylor. You having one Satoshi is you have the same power and say in the network as Michael Saylor, who has almost coming up on a million Bitcoin is what he's trying to get, right? So 600,000 Bitcoin, some crazy number. So when you understand what's really going on and you understand the network, those type of things, it's like, people be worried about the wrong shit, right? Same thing when people say, oh, but what happens when the internet goes out? What about Bitcoin then? First and foremost, your bank account is connected to the internet, buddy. All right? All right? That's first and foremost. And second of all, you're going to have much bigger problems at hand than you worried about money. So that's
Yeah, we got to take a real quick break. We're going to come back. I got about 2 or 3 really good more questions for you, Chris.
all right.
Hold on,
All right.
hold that thought. You got
All right.
time to stick with me?
All right, take your time. Yes, sir. We good.
All right.
If you're watching on Twitter or YouTube, hit that like, share, subscribe for the kid. I feel like it's a really dope conversation that, Bitcoiners need to hear, newbies and veterans. So make sure you hit that like, share, subscribe if you are tuned in on X or on YouTube.
Right. We're back for the lightning round. Thanks for sticking in with me. This has been a really good one, man. I like the energy. I like the vibe. I love your responses, and we're going to finish up strong. You ready?
I'm ready. I appreciate you having me on. Great conversation for sure.
For sure. For sure. All right. So, checking your post again. You said they lied and told you Bitcoin was a scam. Now they're buying. You're laughing. You're like, yo, this guy does his research. I do my research. Hot take. Who's the biggest matrix hypocrite jumping on the Bitcoin train? And how do we keep it's so free from their grip.
Biggest hypocrite, I would say, Peter Schiff. No, I'm just joking. Peter Schiff is probably like a low key Bitcoiner, but I feel like he knows that he pisses off Bitcoiners, so he gets that engagement farming. So I don't really. That's a great question, man. I don't know who's the biggest grifter, dog. Who's the biggest? Who? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
You
shitcoiners
know
that
who
are
I think it is? The big boy, big
BlackRock.
Uncle Larry
Yeah.
Fink,
Okay.
BlackRock,
I
most
think they
assets
really just
under
about the money.
management.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
all
I think
about
they
the
really
money.
just about the money. Yeah. So they gonna
Yeah,
do
but
whatever
it
they got
went
to do.
from illegitimate to too legit to quit. You know, he said this is a legitimate thing now, right? And now Jamie Dimon, I think, is he has to have flipped and something like that, you know.
Yeah,
So,
tap on the shoulder like, yo, shut
you
up,
know,
bro. You got to make sure that
they
you
all have
talk
to bow
positive
down
about it now.
eventually. Yeah. They all have to bow down eventually, you know. So, another one. So, with Trump, with his Trump coin, crash millions for holders. Hot take. Is Trump crypto push a genuine ally for Bitcoin or a matrix con to profit from the hype?
He an ally,
Is he
dog.
good?
He without him, he an ally, bro. You can not like him all you want, but he pumping that bit. He pumping bitty, and his son understands it. Eric Trump talking about Bitcoin and saying all the things that we've been saying for years. So it's again, it's a bit of, I guess it's bittersweet to see, like, I kind of don't want it in the hands of, obviously, these super, wealthy people already. But I know it's like only this, if they're smart enough to get it, which I think they do get it, then they deserve it, right? Once you if you take the time to understand it, you know it is what it is. But I don't think Trump is a a bad character. I think he's a good character because he's the one who passed. He said he was going to pass the strategic reserve, right? He did what he said he's going to do. Biden wasn't doing that. Obama wasn't doing that. Ain't nobody was doing that until he came through. He said, "Yo, I'm trying to make this bread." That's why I said I fuck with Donald because he about the bread, dog. Hey, and there's shit corners out there. He launched his own shit coin, bro. Like, Obama would never, cuz. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but Obama would never launch a shit coin, dog. He ain't got the balls.
Hey, he ain't got
Biden would never launch a shit
cojones.
coin. You feel me? He don't got the ball.
Hey,
I'm not
if
saying it's right or wrong.
it's one thing Trump has, it's cojones. That's for sure.
Yeah, so he got the balls to do that in the past strategic reserve. He's tweeting out, "Yo, Bitcoin, I'm about to raise 2 billion or a million or 3 million, 60 million, whatever it is, to buy Bitcoin." And like, for him to even be talking like this,
Hmm.
we would have never saw this. We never seen this coming. A lot of people never seen this coming. So he's
Yeah.
definitely an ally, whether you like him or not. He's a net positive for Bitcoin.
Okay, Trump's a net positive for Bitcoin Chris. Here's another question for you. Analysts like Standard Charter predict Bitcoin at 500,000 by 2029, citing dwindling faith in government bonds. That's a high number. I think it goes there easy, in my opinion. Where do you see Bitcoin going this cycle or this year? This year. Let's do 2025.
I would be surprised if we're not at 200,000 by the end of the year. To be honest with you, I'll be surprised. And then this cycle, I'm shooting for 888,000, $888, dog, and 88
Eight,
cents,
eight,
bro. We
eight.
going all eights, eight hundred
I
thousand
like
to a
that.
million this cycle. In my opinion, if we don't, God is looking out for everybody on planet Earth, because I'm telling you, once it gets up there, it's not coming back down. It's not coming back down to 100,000. If we go to a million, we're probably gonna. I don't think we're gonna see these 80% corrections anymore either, because you got Michael said we got dwindling exchanges on dwindling supply. We got FOMO from countries and corporations starting to kick in, right? You got everyday people, plebs, whatever you want to call them, right? Bitcoiners, right? Also buying. Yeah, so there's so much buying pressure, dog, that once we hit a certain point, like I said, once Bitcoin hits that escape velocity, bro, there is no coming back, bro. So
Yeah.
God willing and God blessing everybody, right? Because everybody's gonna be sad and be mad, right? Once it does correct, or we have a correction, or we get a discount. God willing and God blessing us, we'll get a discount, but I don't think it'll be 80%. If it is 80%, thank God, right? But I don't think we'll get that, right? I think we'll probably do 50%, possibly, maybe like 40%, 50%, 60% max, right? So that will be a blessing. So hopefully that happens. If it doesn't, it's okay. Still gonna DCA. So this cycle, 800 to $1 million per Bitcoin. By the end of the year, 200,000, right along with Max Kaiser's 220 in play, 220K in play. Just math.
Yeah. It's just math, people. Max says 2.2 million is in play, right?
That's oh yeah, he raised it up.
Yeah. So your predictions are in line with a lot of other guests I've had on the show. A Bitcoin libertarian says about 1 million. He says this year 1 million. So from his lips to God's ears, right? And you say
Everybody on
at
planet
least
Earth better pray that don't
2K.
happen, because you do not have
Right,
enough Bitcoin
right.
for that
That's
shit
what
to go to
it's
$1 million.
right. Like you said, because when it gets there, it's not coming back, because then they know, right? Everybody knows. And it's not some kind of strange fringe type of thinking. It's like accepted. And now you're told it's a good thing. Good boy, you can stack your stuff, your sats like sheeple, but you got to stack it before they tell you it's a good thing. That's how you get the upside. My question is, it's people, Bitcoin is in a space. If you're in Bitcoin and you're on Twitter, it's kind of like an echo chamber, and that everybody's like, the moon boys want the moon, right? And it's kind of like just stagnant here at 100. What do you think? Is there an invisible hand on the price is suppressing the price of Bitcoin action? What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's people that bought, I think there's whales that definitely can, and the exchanges especially, that can see. I don't know
Hmm.
if you've seen any of my lives. When I do TA, I go to CoinGlass. And when I go on CoinGlass, I'm able to see how much liquidation is at what point, how much liquidations for the longs, how many liquidations for the shorts, right? So if
Hmm.
I can see that, exchanges can see that, the whales can definitely see that, right? And these people that hold lots of Bitcoin can definitely see that as well, right? So what they'll do is they'll say, all right, let's try to get these sheep and the people that are paper handed and the people that are just here just to try to make some money. Let's get them out. Let's get them up out of here real quick. Now, let's dump a bunch of Bitcoin. They're already in profit, right? So they can dump it right now in profit, drop the price. They get all this. They have all the capital. They wait until a certain low price point, buy it right back. So I think there is a little bit of that. I'll be naive to think that, and I think anybody would be naive to think that they don't have. There's not whales out there that have enough Bitcoin to move the price, especially BlackRock, because they're definitely big players and have that money printer in their back pocket, so they can do whatever it is that they want to do, or they have their constituents that they represent. They know what they're doing, man, in my opinion. So I think it's a lot of factors to it. And I do think there are whales that can suppress the price until supply and demand becomes the overall factor. And then once that happens, that's when it's game time and game over. And we're starting to see a little bit of that, like I said, with the institutional FOMO now. And then we have countries that are probably stacking in the background that's not going to tell anybody, right? Until it's go time, like Russia, right? And China, right? While they spew out to the public, right? They have the private side of things, like I said, and they got the public side of things. And the public, they're telling all the Chinese people and everybody across the world, oh, we're banning Bitcoin for the 36th time. They can't ban it, right? But they're telling all the sheep think that they can ban it, so they're like, oh, they're banning it all, you know. Meanwhile, they're stacking in the background. You got, you know, you had Biden trying to, Biden was doing things as far as international wars and stuff goes with Ukraine and Russia. So and then back in 2021, we were already talking about how Russia was mining Bitcoin and there was already a board. By the time we figure out and they tell the public shit, everything that they're telling us is delayed information that they've been known, and they feed it out to the public. That's why I said you can't be listening to the MSM. And that's why I don't like listening and being on Twitter and listening to that little echo chamber of things, because it's like they tell you what they allow you to, they let you know what they allow you to know. And until you understand that they have control like that over this matrix, you are
Right.
just a sheep, because unfortunately that's the way it goes. They have technology. They've been had the technology of AI and the robots and stuff, because they told us back in Demolition Man. They told us in iRobot that they had that. And how could they see that 20, 30 years ago, right? And then now it's just not
Right.
coming out. They have to roll it out because they've systematically dumbed down the people to where they cannot trust us with certain technologies, or we're not able to handle certain technologies. Not everybody, but the majority, right? Just like you had the test with the C-19 vaccine and the mask, right? I still be seeing people wearing masks. It's 2025, right? When you understand what's really going on, when you take the orange pill and you can see how the matrix really operates, it's a game changer, but it's also, it's not for everybody. Not everybody can handle being sovereign and the truth, right? And it's a lot to process, but once you start to, dig down that rabbit hole, you either gotta, you gotta take the orange pill. Once you take the orange pill, you can't go back.
All
Can't go
right.
back.
All right. Can't go back. So, last question. If you could have a one-on-one conversation with Satoshi Nakamoto today, what's the one question you'd ask?
What is your what is your I would ask him what made you create Bitcoin? Like I would want to know, besides this 12, like yo, let me get them keys, yo. Besides, if I can't get them keys cuz you about to, you ain't using them anyway, let me get them keys. But besides that, I would say, "Hey man, what happened to you? What was your breaking point that made you say, F the system. I'm about to do a checkmate on fiat currency and this government and the demonic entities that rule this world?" I would say, what was the straw that broke the camel's back for you to do that? Because I know something happened that pissed you off to the point where you're like, it's go time, effortlessly, and then dip. Created it, dip. So I would say, man, who hurt you, and what caused you to do this? Because I know something happened for him to do that, and we've all experienced it, right? We went through the 2008 financial crisis, which is exactly what spawned it up. So I want to know if he was like a part of the, some people say it's part of NSA and all that. They had the data and all that stuff to do it. I don't think he was, or maybe he was, right? I don't know. But I think he probably went through something through that financial crisis, and that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. How they bailed out the bankers instead of the people. How they gave fraudulent loans, which when you sign for the, I'm not even going into that. How they gave fraudulent loans to these people, subprime loans to people, and then the market bust, and then they took away all these people's houses, right? And they didn't bail out the people, they bailed out the bank. So I think he might have experienced some hardship that just like was like, no more, no more, right? He probably was like heartbroken and stuff, because even I went through that, right, with my mom in that time, and I remember that, like that time of the year, or that time of the financial crisis, like it was yesterday, bro. It was crazy, dog. It was mad like depressing. It was mad like, it was super super weird time, like, and I could feel that as a youngin. I was actually around 20. I had my son around that time, so it wasn't
Wild
it
time.
wasn't a it wasn't a good time for people. So I know they pissed him
Right.
off. That would be my question.
Chancellor on the brink of second bailout, right? He put it in the chain. All right, man. Bitcoin Chris, thanks so much for coming on the pod, man. It's been really great.
Thank you for having me, man, and I appreciate you having this conversation. Dope conversation. Real Hard Money podcast. The truth.
Yeah, we out here. Tell the people where they can find you.
Instagram, which I try not to be on at all anymore because the algorithms. It's at official Bitcoin Chris. There's a lot of dope content on there. You can actually scroll down and see all the posts from the last few years, right? And just see that I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. And you can reach me on Twitter at Chris Knight 407. And then on Facebook is going to be official Bitcoin Chris as well. TikTok, Bitcoin Chris. I don't be on TikTok either, but you can hit me up on there if you follow me on there if you're on there. And then Yeah, that's about it. That's the only socials that I be on.
All right.
.com/@ Bitcoin Chris as well.
All right. That'll do it for us. I'm Caliph for Real Hard Money Podcast. That's Bitcoin Chris. Check him out on all the socials, and we'll see you on the next video. Signing off.